Hello, this is Ben119 and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to carry on with my Twilight Princess HD dungeon design series. So this is the final episode of the entire series. So this is the final dungeon, dungeon number 9, Hyrule Castle. And this is the final ever episode of Twilight Princess HD dungeon design. So if you've seen the whole series and all the dungeons, thank you so much, because it means a lot to me if you watch every episode in the series. Even if you just tuned into certain ones, or you've just watched this one for example, I'm still very thankful, because anyone who views my videos, I'm just grateful for it, because I'm not getting that many views at the moment. So every view, every like, every comment does mean a lot to me. So yeah, let's crack on with talking about the final fight. So the atmosphere is actually really cool. There's like lightning and I like the way it looks and everything. But the final fight itself, I've got a lot to say about it, and it's a cool final fight. I loved it when I was younger, but since replaying it as I got a bit older, I seem to enjoy it less and less. I still think it's a cool fight, but it's a little bit underwhelming for a final fight, and it's a little bit easy in my opinion with some of the choices they went with, and some of the gameplay is just not as fun as I remember it being. That's not because I've played it a lot, because I know some bosses and stuff I've played several times obviously, because I played the game several times, but some bosses just stay fun, but this boss doesn't. I don't know, let's just get into it when it starts. So there's a big cutscene here. It's basically just talking about like Ganondorf and Midna and Zelda and Link, and it's just the main story. I'm not talking about the main story here because this whole series is dedicated to talking about dungeons, how they're designed, different puzzles, different mechanics, what I like, what I dislike, basically going over all of that. I'm not doing a full game review. I may do a full game review in the future, but this is not what this series is for, this video. So I'm not going to touch on that. But this final boss here, I think Ganondorf does look really cool in this game. I will have to say this, but I wish there was more encounters with Ganondorf in the game. It would have felt like a more meaningful final boss. Because I know like Ocarina of Time, you encounter Ganondorf several times throughout the game. And yeah, when you fight him, it's more satisfying, you know more about him. But you don't really seem to know too much about Ganondorf in this game, because you only really see him at the Mirror of Twilight halfway through the game, and then you see him now. So it just seems really weird, because we've not really got any relationship with Ganon, and we don't really know much about him. Especially if this is the first Zelda game you've ever played, it'll feel a bit anticlimactic as well, because Zant is kind of built up to be the final boss in this game. Then you got Ganondorf, and you're probably thinking, who's Ganondorf? Like, I don't really know much about this guy. And he'll just seem like a bit of an underwhelming final boss. But if you've played these old games before this, especially Ocarina of Time, there's a lot of things in this fight that you'll probably like, and there's a lot of things that pays homage to Ocarina of Time, I guess. So we'll get into that when we get into the fight. There's just a lot of cutscenes. I really should have cut these cutscenes out, because these cutscenes are really long, but I decided to keep them in just because I want to keep this series like just realistic. I don't want to cut out every cutscene and cut out any bit of filler. I want to keep it in, because obviously that's the experience as well. And in my opinion, I think having a cutscene before a boss is really cool, like especially the final boss. If every boss had this kind of length cutscene, it would be a bit annoying, but the final boss is obviously very important to the story. And I think if you had actually been playing through the whole game, rather than just the dungeons, this cutscene would obviously be more meaningful, because you played all the way up to this point, especially if it's your save. You'd probably be able to connect with the cutscene more. But obviously this is just a dungeon design video, and playing through this series, when I've got back into doing the dungeon design, I've actually started from like the Temple of Time, so I've not even replayed the whole game, so obviously the cutscene hasn't had the same effect on me. And I think this is a really cool idea here. So this boss is actually split into 4 phases, and this first phase is fighting Zelda. So it's a cool fight. It's a bit like the fight from Ocarina of Time with Ganondorf. It's a little bit like that. The one thing I don't like about this fight, and I'll talk about it when it happens, this part I do like, Lightning Tennis, classic. You see it in multiple Zelda games. It's done in Ocarina of Time, it's done in Wind Waker, I think it's done in A Link to the Past as well. I've never really completed A Link to the Past, it's not really my kind of Zelda game. I know a lot of people like it, but I'm not a huge fan of it, no offense. So, this phase here, basically Zelda uses like all these attacks on you, like she makes things appear and she can swarm at you. And the thing I dislike about this is the fact that it's all down to chance, and if you get unlucky it can go on forever, and in a minute it does go on for a while, and it's because I got very unlucky. So you can play more tennis with her, hit these lightning balls back at her. I think you have to do it 3 times in total to kill her. And you can actually use a bottle, so if you actually equip an empty bottle, you can actually use a bottle to hit the lightning balls back at her rather than your sword. It's a silly little detail, I don't think it's even meant to be in the game, but it's pretty cool that it's there, and it's quite funny to do. I should have shown it off, but I didn't really show it off because I don't know why. I should have though, because it's a cool little detail, I don't think everyone knows about it. It doesn't really add anything, it's just silly. So like here, like we got all this dramatic music, and not much is really happening. Like, I wish Zelda had like more attacks on you, like she was faster on the attacks, they were harder to dodge, but it just seems like over dramatic and there's not much happening. Like there's like these triangles that pop up, you just dodge it, and then she swarms towards you and you just dodge it. It's pretty easy to dodge and everything, and it's just very underwhelming. I know it's only the first phase, so if this is the whole final fight, it would be a very disappointing final fight, but obviously it's just one phase, so it's not too bad. So the other phases are pretty good. There are flaws with the other phases as well, we'll get onto them when we're fighting the other phases, but we're just going to talk about this phase for now. I've had all this time to talk just because I've been waiting. I wouldn't usually be able to do this, but yeah, it can take a while. I think if you're very lucky it can take like a minute, if you're very unlucky it can take as long as this, maybe even longer. I like how the tennis, like the lightning tennis, just get really fast towards the end. It can be pretty challenging because you have to have pretty good reactions and you have to keep hitting back and 2 really fast. I do like that about it, and there is some difficulty in this fight with the lightning tennis. So you get that it's the first phase down, and there is 4 phases, spoiler alert, to this fight. No final boss ever has got like 1 phase. It's just unheard of to have a final boss in a modern game, or even like a game from like 2000s onwards. To have 1 phase. Like every final boss has got to have like 1,000 phases nowadays to make it more dramatic. So right here, Midna has like turned Zelda back into like Zelda, and we think everything's fine, but obviously not. And right here, this is another like nod back to Ocarina of Time, and it's because we're going to be fighting Ganon. So we're going to be fighting the Ganon version of Ganondorf, and I love the way Ganon looks in this game, and the whole music in this part of the fight is really good as well. I think it's really, really cool. It's a really cool atmosphere to have. I think Ganon is really scary looking, it's really big and intimidating, but it's a little bit of an easy fight, and we'll get onto that in a minute. So the main way that you can fight him, there is 2 ways to fight him. I didn't really show off the human way. But basically what you can do is, as he's charging towards you, you can grab, and then you can wrestle him, and you can move him over. So this is like, you know when you're wrestling with goats, or you're doing Goron wrestling earlier in the game? It's basically like that, so you have to have knowledge from doing that, and then you can fight him. So it's really cool how they added that in the game. It's really cool how you have to even if you don't know about that, even though you should know about that, because obviously you have to do that, all that stuff to get to this point in the game. It's pretty cool how you have to do that in like the final boss. You have to wrestle him like a goat. He does jump out at you, and he can jump out from different places, so you have to be looking around all the time. So there we go, we can grab him, we can wrestle him again. There we go, you have to be pretty tough on that. As you knock him over, I turn into Link because Link does way more damage with the Master Sword. If you play as Wolf Link, he doesn't do much damage and it takes a lot longer. There is a way of fighting him as Link, and what you can do is when he's charging towards you, the bit on his forehead will light up, and you can time an arrow shot, and if you time it just right and hit it in a certain place, he'll end up falling over and you can attack him like that. Technically that way is quicker, but I don't know why, but I really like fighting him as a wolf. It just feels like better having like a wolf fight him in this phase. It just gives the Wolf Link something to do as well. I like how they implemented Wolf Link into the final fight. I feel like that's something that they missed from Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask final fight is really cool, but they don't really use all the masks to their potential. I think that would have been really cool to see like the Goron mask and the Zora mask, see all the different masks being used in different ways, but I like how the Wolf Link is being used well. And he can just run around the room. I'm just going to collect some hearts while I'm waiting. Oh, there's a fairy, that'll do. Oh, there we go. I grabbed him just in time, look at that. Look at those reaction speeds I had there. Okay, so I'm going to turn into Link. They give you a lot of health and they give you like a lot of fairies, so I guess it's pretty easy for final fight. Considering, like with Ocarina of Time, I know there is like hearts and stuff. In the final Ganon fight, I don't think there is actually, but in the regular Ganondorf fight, if you fall down to the bottom, there is like a load of pots with like magic and hearts and all that. But I think the thing is with this game, it's a bit too easy in places, and it's not even too easy. It's just that enemies don't do enough damage. I think if enemies just did more damage, it would make this whole game better. That's all they need to do, make enemies do more damage, and maybe add more health to some enemies, and it'd be fine. So there we go, Ganon is dead. Overall, it's nowhere near as good as the Ganon from Ocarina of Time. It's a pretty decent fight. I like what they tried. I like how they implemented having to fight him as a wolf. I like the fact that Ganon is even in this game. So obviously that's really cool to see. I really like the way he looks, and I like the music in the fight. I think all that goes well. I think if this was missing, I don't think it would affect the fight too much, and it wouldn't impact the fight in any way too much. But it's cool to have Ganon. It would have been cool to see him as like the third phase, rather than like the second phase. The third phase is in a little while, because there's a cutscene here with Midna and Zelda. And the third phase is my worst phase in this fight, and it probably, if it wasn't for the third phase, I'd probably actually like this fight a lot more. It's just that the third phase sucks. So we're going to talk over this cutscene because cutscenes are boring and we're not talking about the main story. So, things I've talked about in my last episodes of Dungeon Design. I know when I first filmed the first few, it was like 5 or 6 months ago now. Probably 6 or 7 months ago now, actually, from making this video. And I was a little bit younger then, not too much younger obviously. And it's my first time ever doing this kind of thing, and I think if I had redone it now, some of the commentary could be better, the video quality could be a little bit better, and I could have talked a bit more about certain things. I think they don't stand out too much. I think they're fine, obviously, that the gameplay's fine. I obviously got every chest in the dungeons. I didn't really make any big mistakes in dungeons. I think if I had made huge mistakes and I had to backtrack and I left it unedited, that would have been very unprofessional of me. But at least I did that fine. And I guess it's good that I kept the series going, because for a while I just stopped in the series because I wanted to do videos and other things. I had other things going on in my life at the time. And now I've finally got back into Twilight Princess and finished the series. And sometimes when I start things, I sometimes leave them unfinished, but I'm glad I've actually come back to this and finished it, because it's just cool that I can actually finish something. There we go. So we've been teleported to Hyrule Field, and the castle's just blown up. That's really sad to see. And we just got Ganondorf out here on his horse. So this phase is basically horseback chase. And something I did want to say about this fight, I will say it during the fight though, because I need stuff to say during the fight. I don't want to say it all now. And it's just, you'll see. But he's got Midna's helmet, and it looks like he's killed Midna even though he hasn't. That's like the impression we get from this cutscene, is that Midna's died. But Midna's not dead. They wouldn't kill off Midna. If they did, it would be very sad. But there's a cutscene here with Link and Zelda, and I think this cutscene's really cool because it basically gives you light arrows, and you're only able to use them during this fight. Only Zelda's even able to use them. I do like how light arrows aren't an item in this game, because I don't think it could have really impacted the gameplay too much, because I know with Ocarina of Time, you get light arrows dead late as well. I know in Majora's Mask you can use light arrows for things like sunblock puzzles. I know light arrows are completely different in Majora's Mask. With Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker, light arrows are mainly used just for enemies to deal way more damage and for Ganondorf. But I like how light arrows aren't an item in this game, because I don't think they could have found much use for them. And there's already a lot of items that have not much use, so it's good that they didn't even try and include light arrows as a main item. They could have easily included light arrows as a dungeon item in the castle, and I probably wouldn't have even cared, because it probably wouldn't have had much use. It probably would have just killed enemies in one hit, or it would have just been for puzzles that are only dedicated to that dungeon. because they're not really going to use light arrows for other stuff in like Harold Field, because then that'd be bad game design, because you have to go all the way out the final dungeon right at the end of the game to get like some heart piece or whatever, and it'd just be bad. So yeah, I'm glad they didn't include light arrows as an item. So we're actually able to use them now on the horseback. And the whole point of this fight here is we ride around on Epona. It's good use of Epona actually. I like how we're using Wolf Link, we're using Epona, we're using a bunch of different things in the final fight. I like how it's set in the same field as we fight King Warblin for the first time. It's really cool how they've added that. I think they must have done that on purpose. So basically you have to get close to Ganondorf and you have to Z-target him. And Zelda basically has to shoot Ganondorf. And the one annoying thing about this fight, which I absolutely hate, is I'm a bit impatient. I gotta be honest, I'm impatient, and I get really annoyed at this fight really easily. And it's just because the things that Ganondorf spawns beside him can knock you off the horse, and I seem to get knocked off all the time. Maybe I'm just going too close to him. Maybe I just suck at horse combat. But I just seem to get annoyed at this fight because I always seem to get knocked off my horse, or something knocks me off, or I end up stopping like that because the camera messes up on me. I feel like this fight could be really fun, but it just sucks whenever I play it. Because I think it's just me as well, because I'm not very good. Like right there, there's no way I could have dodged that. Like if I had dodged that, I would have had to have stopped, turned around, and go around again, and then Gandalf probably wouldn't even be. Like, he probably would have unstunned by then, so it wouldn't even be, there'd be no point to it. So what I would have liked to have seen instead, this is cool I guess, I like the idea of this fight, I just don't like the way it plays. The gameplay of this fight isn't very good, but the actual idea of the fight is cool, like fighting him on horseback, having to shoot him and get close to him and hit him. What I would have liked to have seen is a 1v1 on Bridge of Eldin. I think that would have been very good as like the final fight, like a 1v1. You know, like with King Warblin when we chase him on the Bridge of Eldin and you have to run at each other and you have to hit him, you have to run alongside him and hit him, and if you get hit you fall off and die, and if you hit him he'll fall off and die. It would have been cool to see something like that with Ganondorf. I think it would have been really tense as a final fight, and they could have made it really hard as well. They could have made it so you have to like dodge him like with like super quick reaction time, but instead we got this. There's nothing really wrong with this apart from the fact that the targeting sucks. So just keep chasing him. I think if you understand how Epona works as well, if you've mastered the controls on Epona and mastered the speed boosts on Epona, I think it'll be good as well, because I know if you spam the speed boosts it doesn't really get you anywhere. It's like on Mario Kart when you get 3 mushrooms at once and you spam all 3 mushrooms. It doesn't give you extra speed, it's just a waste. A bit like that with Epona, you want to use one of them and then when the speed's worn off you want to use the other one. And also don't use all 6 because it takes a while for them all to recover. Like if you just use 5 of them and then wait for one to recover and do that, and just keep using them when you need to catch up with him, I think that's the best way of doing it. I'm no expert on Epona controls, but from my experience with using Epona, that's what I found works best for me. There we go, we've finally taken him out. I think if you do spin attacks you can do more damage to him, fun fact. There you go, he just falls off his horse, what an idiot. You see the way he just fell? That's the king of darkness, he just falls off a horse like that. This game is weird. But he's alive. And this fight is the final fight, so it's basically a 1v1 sword fight with Ganondorf, which is a really amazing idea. I love... Now the atmosphere in this fight is pretty cool, the music is amazing, and Ganondorf himself is really cool because he's not like huge. Like he's big, like he's obviously bigger than Link, which is what you want, but he's not like absolutely huge. He's not like Calamity Ganon in Breath of the Wild, which is unreal in size. I think he's the perfect size for this fight, and they could have done so much with this fight, but instead it's just boring. For one, it's too easy if you use all the hidden skills, and if you don't use any of the hidden skills it's too hard. So what you have to do is you can do 1v1 sword things with him. He can sometimes challenge you to these, and what you have to do is you have to jump attack him and then mash the A button, and if you mash fast enough you can stun him and then you can temporarily hit him. And what else? And you can actually stun him with a fishing rod. Well, not stun him, but you can distract him. So if you pull out fishing rod and you dangle it in front of him, he will get distracted. He'll look around, and while he's distracted, you can get a few hits on him. Technically, you can just beat him like that. Something I don't like about him, like I was saying, is a lot of his moves are very predictable and does the same moves over and over. So the way you have to fight him is very predictable as well. Like, you have to keep doing you have to keep jumping around him and hitting him. You can't just like use your general skills. You can't use like jump attacks or certain attacks. You kind of have to just keep using hidden skills, which kind of sucks. I wish there was more use for just general combat, and I wish he attacked you in more ways, and I wish he did more damage. He nearly got me again in a chance. There we go, fishing rod. You can challenge him to a chance a few times. It's completely random, I think, when he does it as well. I wish there was like more timed. Like, I wish there was like one you did halfway through the fight and then another one you did like right at the end. I think there is always one you do at the end. He always does one before the final hit, which is cool. So you can just keep fighting him. I was trying out loads of different techniques because I swore that you could fight him in different ways, but from what I can tell, the only ways of really attacking him is by doing rolls around him and getting lucky with hits. And the embarrassing thing is, he does 1 heart of damage each hit. Like, that's an embarrassing amount of damage for the final boss. 1 heart. If he did like 3 hearts or 4 hearts of damage, I think this whole fight would be a lot better. Even if they didn't change any of the combat with him, it'd make this entire fight way harder and way more memorable. Like, part of the reason why I don't like this fight as well is it's too easy for a final fight. Something you can even do is, if you got all these spare rupees, something I never even do is you can equip your magic armor. And obviously then you can actually stay invincible and all your rupees will count down, but it won't matter because you've obviously spent all your rupees on important stuff, so you might as well spend them on your magic armor because, yeah. But I always forget to use magic armor because I never need to use it because this game's easy. If this game was a lot harder and everything did more damage, I'd probably be using the magic armor a lot. So there we go, we can chance him again. And if we keep hitting him, I think he's almost dead. There we go, we've knocked him over. So finish an attack. And it doesn't even let you do the special finish. I wish it let you do the special finish, where you like hold down A and then you do it. But you can do a regular finish, and we get this big cutscene with Ganondorf. I like this cutscene at the end. I love the credits in this game. I'm not going to play the entire credits, because it'll be like a 50-minute video. Because the credits are really long, they're almost like half an hour, I think. So there we go, that is the end of the dungeon design series. The final boss, even though I was saying all this stuff, I still think it's a cool final boss. I think the atmosphere of the boss is still there, the music's really good. It's just the gameplay that lets the fight down. Like, compared to like Ocarina of Time, it's not as good. But visually, I think it's better, because I prefer the graphic style in this game to like Ocarina of Time or Wind Waker. A lot of people probably don't like the graphics in Twilight Princess, but I actually really like the Twilight Princess graphics. That's just my opinion. I could do a separate video on Twilight Princess, but not right now. I got other stuff that I want to be doing. So that is the end of the dungeon design series, like I was saying. If you enjoyed this entire series, please like the video and subscribe if you're new around here. After this, I actually plan on making a top 9 dungeon bosses for Twilight Princess. That's going to be fun to make. I hope you stick around to see it. You'll probably end up seeing it if you haven't seen this video, because it'll probably end up getting more views than this video, because more people will probably want to watch a top 10 than this, even though it'll be a top 9. There you go, that is the end of the series. Like I was saying, subscribe if you're new around here, and I will see you in the next series or video. Goodbye, and thank you so much for watching the entire series.